All right, I am back with Dave Kennedy. Hey, Dave.
Hey, how are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm wonderful. It's a little snowy out there, but we're
It
still
is.
doing a bunch of closings today. So
That's good.
yeah,
Well, I wanted to talk today and get our title update. So, Dave is with Fidelity Land Title, our favorite title company.
yeah.
And there's a lot of different charges on the settlement sheet.
Hmm.
Are there certain, I know there's certain charges that are like seller based and certain charges that are like buyer based. What
Yeah,
are the seller ones that are
yeah.
common?
So really, it just depends on what part of the country or even what part of the state you're in.
Okay.
Different customs for different parts of the country will kind of determine what you're going to pay for. Since we're talking mainly here about Cincinnati, we'll kind of just go over those fees. But it is kind of amazing. Like even if like you go up north to Columbus, the fees that people get charged are different.
Hmm.
Again, it's just kind of based on just like we have still sometimes do roundtable closings here and they don't have them up there. Just like that, there's certain fees that get paid for by the buyer and the seller. So specifically here in Cincinnati, there's only a couple charges that the seller is going to be responsible for. One of them is called the transfer tax. And
Okay.
that tax is a dollar amount that you pay the county to transfer the property from you to your buyer. And that is $4 per thousand of your transaction. So you just multiply, however many thousand by four, and you pay your
Why
transfer tax.
is that I guess I'm trying to think like in a car, there's a transfer tax too,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right. So
Yeah.
I think there's I believe, I don't know, I've never sold a car like that, but I believe there probably is a transfer tax. Um, so,
But you're saying in other parts of even our state, that's a buyer. Is that a
so,
buyer
so
paid?
that's not one of, no, typically
Okay.
that's the transfer tax is going to be paid for by the seller pretty much where you are.
Okay.
So that's the main thing. That's the big dollar thing that you're going to be paying for is that transfer tax. And that's again, for the county to transfer the property from you to the new buyer. So
Okay.
you're going to be responsible for that. Usually a couple $1,000s for a typical transaction.
Hmm.
And then the other thing that you're going to be responsible for is a deed prep. So you need to have an attorney prepare a deed that's going to transfer the property from you again to the buyer. That's going
Okay.
to be your responsibility to essentially hire the attorney to prepare the deed.
Which is at the title company.
Right. So usually the title company, but if you're selling a property, you don't have to have the title company prepare the deed. You can present your own deed.
Okay.
The title company is going to look at it and make sure that it's correct.
It's
But that's
correct,
that's
right?
typically a question that we'll ask the listing agent. Are you going to be providing a deed, or do you want us to prepare it for your client? So
Got it.
that's again a fee that the seller is going to be responsible for. And then another one that they're typically going to be charged is these days are wire fees. So the banks
Which seems
charges,
so
yeah,
dumb.
I know. You think the banks would want everything wired
I know.
because
You would think
there's,
they would charge you a fee to come in,
yeah,
you
it's
know?
internet, it's all internet based. They don't have to have people there working, creating
I think
cashiers,
they have to
checks, and that
press a
type of stuff.
button.
Right, right. So there's
Oh,
typically a fee that the bank charges us to
to
either
send the
receive,
money.
yeah, receive and send wire. It's like a transactional fee from the bank that that we then have the seller will then take. So like
Okay.
when you say you have a loan on their property
Yeah.
and you need to pay off your existing loan, we usually wire that money to the
The
bank that you
lender.
have your
Yeah.
lender. So that's a wire that they would be responsible for.
That's
So
craziness.
yeah, so that's typically about it. And then some title companies will charge a seller like a closing fee, depending on the nature of the transaction, or if for some reason you'd have to send a closer somewhere. Say you have a property in Cincinnati, but you live in New Mexico. You have to
Yeah.
send a closer out there to have them sign documents. Theoretically, they would get charged like a closing fee for that. Another thing that sometimes we'll have is an e-notary.
Mhm.
So we do have a fee for our e-notary service to keep you from having to come in. And that's again to kind of cover our expenses for the e-notary as well.
But it sounds like the charges that are on the seller side don't actually pay for the service of the title
Right.
company, except for the
No.
deed prep. They all get passed on to the other party that's charging it.
Correct. Yeah. So
So
the buyer pays for the most of the closing costs,
got it.
including the title exam for the property that you own. They're doing a kind of an investigation of you as the seller, but you're not having to pay for it. The buyer typically will cover those fees. So as a seller here in Cincinnati, we have it pretty good. Now, obviously you're paying the commissions, so you're not walking away, but from a title standpoint, your fees are kind of nominal compared to what the buyer is going to be paying. And that's what I said about the area. So one of the big things up north there is that typically a seller will pay for an owner's policy for the buyer. And it's essentially ensuring the transaction to sit there and say that they can transfer the property from me to you, from me as the seller to you as the buyer. And they'll pay for that insurance policy. And it's kind of standard practice up north, but down here, it's usually up to the buyer if they want to buy a policy. But sometimes typically down here, you'll see they say, we'll kick in $300 or so
towards it or whatever. That's so interesting how like even just different parts of the state operate so differently. I wonder like how that got.
Yeah, I know, it's kind of wild. And like you said, it's like, where's the line? I've always wondered that. So we cover the entire state of Ohio, and it's weird, like where, it's north, Dayton kind of takes the Cincinnati practices, but then northern, once you start getting above Dayton up there to Springfield, where is the transitional line where things are going to be responsible, where it switches, what type of closing you do. It is kind of interesting. And like who decided, who came up with that? I've always kind of
exactly. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's good to be a seller these days for sure.
Yeah. Today's the time to be a seller for sure. I mean, the market, is it still crazy out there?
Yeah, it is. We need to be more balanced for sure. We need more sellers to put their home on the market so we can like balance it out a little bit.
Yeah,
I think it would be a little bit better.
I think it was you that shared something that showed it, what pretending like what a listing agent looks like versus what a selling agent looks like these days.
Yeah, a listing agent, a buyer's agent. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's right. That's so funny. Well, Dave, remind us what states you operate in again.
Yeah, so we operate here in Ohio, based here out of Cincinnati, but we cover all the surrounding states. So we're in Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin. I feel like I'm missing one there. But like I said, we're in 8 different states. And like I said, so people have investment properties around, certainly be happy to work with them.
Perfect. And then what's the best way to get a hold of you?
The best way to get a hold of us, you can email me at dkennedy at Fidelity Land Title, or just go to our website, fidelitylandtitle.com, and there's a contact us right on there.
Perfect. All right. Well, it's very informative. I mean, title is kind of boring. Yeah. I'm not going to lie.
I've heard that.
But it is interesting, Dave.
I've got the perfect personality for it.
That's funny. I appreciate you being on. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
See ya.
All right. Bye.